It is August 4th, 2011, and this is a Infowars.com special report. Gerald Celente, one of the top trends forecasters in the world, will be joining us live via Skype to discuss the biggest one-day plunge in the Dow Jones Industrial Average since the panic of 2008. The mainstream media and government are now having to admit we never left the recession and, well, quite frankly, are in a depression. I've been attacked for that. So is Gerald Celente and many of our other researchers and contributors and experts to Infowars.com. And we're going to be breaking down not only what's currently happening, but what we see coming on the horizon with Gerald Celente coming up here in just about 10 minutes. And then after we talk to Gerald, the health ranger, Mike Adams, who broke the story yesterday during my live radio program, and since it's become a national news story, of a combined federal, state, and local raid on an organic food store operating in public view for years. And they confiscated papayas, they confiscated watermelons, and raw milk cheese, stuff sold at Whole Foods right down the road here in Austin and across the country. And they're charging them with conspiracy, and they're being held without bond here in the new freedom that we live under in the United States. But first, I wanted to get into the other important stories that we are looking at today. Government narcotics trafficking and how it's tied into government gun running, not just in Mexico, but all over Central and South America and in Asia and the Middle East. Now, you'll remember last year, because many U.S. military troops in Afghanistan were talking about the fact that they're forced to help grow opium, supply the fertilizer, transport, and security to the Taliban growing the opium, that in response to that, and the fact that it was coming out in the foreign press, the people that control the mainline corporate media, propagandists in this country, came out and said, oh, you know what, on Fox, CNN, BBC, ABC News, it was all the same style newscast, same talking points. Yes, the troops helped grow the opium, and we just showed you a screenshot of the video that's on YouTube of Geraldo Rivera talking to the Marine Corps colonel, where he admits they helped grow and protect the opium. So I thought I would just show that to you before we get into the other news and a little bit more of the background, because we don't just show you the latest news, we give you the background info, but the federal government has been caught again shipping cocaine into the United States and controlling certain pet drug cartels that they use to wage war against their competition. You will remember that earlier in 2011, in April, the London Guardian broke, and then Bloomberg got even more information on $376 billion of narcotics money out of Mexico, laundered through Wachovia and their parent company, Wells Fargo. Now, they had to pay a tiny fine on the $300+ billion of $160 million, and no one got in trouble at Wachovia or Wells Fargo, despite the fact in the plea deal they admitted they were leasing and running the aircraft. Remember a few years ago, the CIA jet, torture jet, crashed in Mexico with 4 tons of pure cocaine. And again, Wachovia, according to MSNBC, then settled for $160 million. Continuing, this dovetails with the new breaking news out of the El Paso Times, not breaking for our viewers. This is Paul Joseph Watson for Infowars.com, April 27th, 2011. It was our great tipsters looking through the federal filings that sent us this filing and many, many others. It turned out this had been filed since September 24th, 2010. We'll give you a screenshot of that and the memorandum for the evidence that they brought in. And what was the evidence of one of the top Mexican drug cartel leaders sent to Chicago to face drug trafficking charges? He brought into evidence Jesus Vicente Zambada Nabella, son of the biggest kingpin in Mexico, El Mayo Garcia. Well, it turns out, and they've now provided the documents, that for 5 years he was working under the orders of the United States government and laundering the money through U.S. banks that they were ordered to launder it through. Thought we'd go over that background information before we gave you the mainstream media now many months after we covered it, finally getting into it. And we commend the reporters, Diana Washington Valdez at the El Paso Times, for covering it. Documents. Feds allegedly allowed Sinaloa cartel to move cocaine to the U.S. for information. And it says as long as they gave them information on the other cartels, they would be left alone. And then Los Zetas, publicly trained, and we told you this 6 years ago before it even happened, from Celi Castillo, former DEA agent. He said the U.S. has trained tens of thousands of Mexican troops. They're going to claim that they defect the Los Zetas, but really it's going to be a Western bank-funded war against the other three big cartels that aren't laundering their money through big U.S. banks now caught publicly laundering that money. Continuing here, here is our report from July 8th, 2011. This has been reported by the federal police in Mexico. Los Zetas kingpin, we bought guns directly from the U.S. government. The ATF didn't just allow the sale of tens of thousands to select drug cartels that they're allied with, who are knocking out their competition. No, leaders of Los Zetas have also provided the Mexican police with documentation that the U.S. arms were shipped directly to them, and that's the report. If you'd like to see it, Los Zetas kingpin, we bought guns directly from U.S. government. Now, the reason I raise that information is that we have now learned, and this is in major papers all over the United States, but it broke in Miami, that the ATF has been working with the DEA and the FBI to ship guns not just into Mexico, but into Honduras and into cities like Miami, Chicago, and Los Angeles, and that the drug gangs are being used to knock out their competition. So it's the big mega banks fighting over a $500 billion a year industry, and the cartels that ally themselves with the CIA and select U.S. and Western-based banks are left alone and protected. Others are killed. Now, all of this is basically imploding right now and coming out because honorable ATF agents, and here's the Fox News report dealing with that, have come out since 5 cops have been killed and 3 Border Patrol agents with guns they helped ship in, and have said, look, we were ordered to do this. It's been going on for many years, and it's time for this to stop. So that is the rest of the story. As Paul Harvey would say, on narcotics trafficking here in the United States, and why our government is shipping guns into Mexico and other areas to arm the gangs that are allied with them to knock out their competition. Now, the domestic angle is that despite the fact the Justice Department's been caught perjuring themselves and lying to Congress, that's now admitted, and that the White House was in command of this entire situation, despite that, they are still now trying to pass more gun restrictions in the U.S. in the name of curbing violence in Mexico, which they actually contributed to. So this is a false flag frame-up of the Second Amendment that has happened. And as the El Paso Times says, this could be as big as the Fast and Furious gun running. Well, it is as big. In fact, it's bigger. It is the rest of the story, and it is intricately connected to the narcotics trade.